Chapter 5478. Wu Chunhua turned around and tried to escape. Unfortunately, how could Wan Renyu allow him to do as he wished? Trying to run now? Didn't you solemnly swear that Jiang Shenwu is a traitor of the clan? Why? In the end, the people from the Wild Sand Sacred Ground are the real traitors. Wan Renyu sneered. Her white figure instantly transformed into a snow-white divine dragon and swept towards Wu Chunhua with ice-cold flames. The truth was out. The Wild Sand Sacred Ground had taken the initiative to cause trouble twice. Even if someone was killed now, no one would sympathize. Most importantly, everyone saw that Wu Chunhua had taken the initiative to intercept the devouring dragon group. Most importantly, Wu Chunhua's motive was not simple. It was obvious that he had some strange thoughts about the devouring dragon group. In that case, Wan Renyu's help to kill this person was nothing. When Wan Renyu transformed into a divine dragon and chased after Wu Chunhua, no one was willing to help her. How could Wu Chunhua, a third-stage transcendent god, compare to Wan Renyu's speed? In a moment of desperation, Wu Chunhua transformed into a divine dragon and emitted a golden sword aura to protect himself. However, Wan Renyu's ice-cold flames were like the most terrifying force in the world. They descended from the sky and burned the golden sword aura into nothingness. Icy cold flame. Wan Renyu's super divine dragon technique had already reached the sacred tier. The ice-cold flames rushed over, leaving Wu Chunhua with no room to resist. He had already vanished completely within the icy flames. After all, Wan Renyu was a powerful existence that ranked in the top 10 of the Dragon Soul Sacred Tower's Grade 7 Disciple competition. A mere Wu Chunhua naturally could not escape from her palm. Wu Chunhua is dead. As for the rest of the Wild Sand Sacred Ground disciples, I will not kill you. The snow-white divine dragon that Wan Renyu had transformed into hovered in the air and looked at the many dragon martialists on the ground. No one will stop you if you leave now. With that, the group of brilliant sword sacred land disciples that had followed Wu Chunhua all turned around and fled. How would they dare to cause trouble here? Even their leader, Wu Chunhua, was killed in one move. They did not dare to continue causing trouble. And now the truth was out. It was their Wild Sand Glorious Sword Sacred Lands General Huang Rusong, who had been the first to betray their race. This was a complete loss of face for them. Not all the Wild Sand Glorious Sword Sacred Land disciples were despicable people like Wu Chunhua. Many people were just filled with righteous indignation, thinking that Kong Shinmu was a traitor of the clan, and that was why he came to make trouble, wanting to seek justice for Huang Rusong. But now that the truth was out, they themselves felt ashamed, and it was even more impossible for them to continue making a fuss. Unfortunately, even though Wan Renyu didn't stop them, it wasn't so easy for them to leave just like that since they'd come over to cause trouble. Many disciples of the 5 extreme profound Ice Holy Land had been holding their breaths these past few days. Slandering Kong Shinmu as a traitor? And he even came to cause trouble near the 5 extreme mysterious Ice Holy Land? Have you asked the disciples of our 5 extreme profound Ice Holy Land? Therefore, this group of people hadn't even fled far before they were already blocked by other disciples of the 5 extreme profound Ice Holy Land. These people might not be killed, but it was inevitable that they would suffer losses. As for what kind of price they would have to pay, that was unknown. 5 extreme profound Ice City. Gu family residence. Gu Xinyue was the one who truly killed Huang Rusong. Therefore, the Gu family residence was also surrounded by people during this period of time. Especially when the 8th grade disciple of the 5 extreme profound Ice Holy Land, Qin Biao, was present. He had said that if the Gu family was willing to give Gu Xinyue to him as a female slave, he was willing to protect the entire Gu family. The threat of these words could be said to be extremely strong. Unfortunately, the trial results were out. Kong Shinmu and Gu Xinyue were not traitors of the clan. Instead, they were meritorious for killing the traitors of the clan. When this news reached the Gu family residence, the expressions of all the people surrounding the Gu family residence changed. Many people's expressions changed, and they quietly turned and left. If they continued to cause trouble at this time, the consequences would not be a joke. Not only was Kong Shinmu innocent now, but he had also performed meritorious deeds. One could imagine how high his status in the dragon gods had become. If they really wanted to pursue the matter, with Emperor Shi supporting Kong Shinmu, those who hit him when he was down would probably not have a good ending. At least half of the people had already quietly turned and left the Gu family residence. However, there was still a small half of the people who still stayed beside the Gu family residence. They wanted to see what kind of reaction the Gu family mansion would have. What would happen to Qin Biao for blocking their door like this? Qin Biao is a grade 8 disciple of the 5 extreme profound Ice Holy Land. He has the strength of a 7th level transcendent god. No matter what the Gu family does, they will not attack him. Even if they attack, there will be no results. Qin Biao is too strong. That's right. Although the head of the Gu family is also a grade 8 disciple, his cultivation is only at the 5th level of the transcendent god realm. The head of the Gu family had been stuck at the 5th level of the transcendent god realm and had been unable to advance. He had barely been promoted to a grade 8 disciple. However, in terms of combat ability, there was still a big gap between him and a powerhouse among the grade 8 disciples like Qin Biao. But that was the understanding of the past 5 extreme profound Ice Holy Land and the dragon martial artists in the city. When the news of Huang Rusong's betrayal and Kong Xinmu and Gu Xinyue's meritorious deeds spread, a burst of laughter came from the Gu family residence. It was the head of the Gu family, Gu Yueshang. Ha ha ha. Qin Biao, why aren't you leaving? Gu Yueshang's laughter came, and a middle-aged man appeared in the sky above the Gu family residence. Gu Yueshang. Even if I don't leave, what can you do to me? Qin Biao wanted to mock and ridicule Gu Yueshang again, but he suddenly realized that the Gu Yueshang in front of him was no longer the Gu Yueshang of the past. In the past, Gu Yueshang's talent was limited, and he could only be stuck at the 7th level of the transcendent god realm. If he wanted to break through again, he would need to consume countless cultivation resources. Even if the entire Gu family was used up, they would not be able to obtain so many cultivation resources. But now, what was going on? Gu Yueshang, who had appeared in front of Qin Biao, actually had the cultivation of the 8th level of the transcendent god realm. The 8th level of the transcendent god realm? Qin Biao felt as though he had seen a ghost. How could this happen? How could someone who had been stuck at the 7th level of the transcendent god realm for decades suddenly break through? Ha ha! Qin Biao, are you surprised? Gu Yueshang smiled faintly and said proudly, life's fate is so mysterious. I am indeed at the 8th level of the transcendent god realm. Since you came to block the door of the Gu family, I will teach you a lesson today. Lesson? Qin Biao sneered, even if you have reached the 8th level of the transcendent god realm, how can you compare to me? Come at me if you can. He was not afraid of Gu Yueshang at all. Even if Gu Yueshang had reached the 8th level of the transcendent god realm, he would not have much battle experience. Chapter 54-79. Gu Yueshang was not afraid at all. In fact, he had expected this situation. No matter what difficulties the Gu family encountered, Qin Biao would definitely hit them when they were down. Therefore, he had not appeared in public recently. His cultivation base had long broken through to Supreme God level 8. This was all thanks to Kong Xinmu. However, this matter could not be announced, so it had to be kept a secret. How he broke through could not be revealed to the public. Gu Yueshang was naturally aware of this. Even the members of the Gu family did not know how he broke through. Apart from himself, the only person in the entire Gu family who knew this was Gu Xinyue. Even Gu Xinyue's brother, Gu Qinglian, who was very close to her, did not know. Gu Yueshang had been hiding his Supreme God level 8 combat power for this day. Qin Biao had always been at odds with him. Ever since he broke through to become a grade 8 disciple, Qin Biao had been finding trouble with him. In Gu Yueshang's opinion, Qin Biao was interested in his daughter, Gu Xinyue, and wanted to take her as a concubine. However, how could he marry his daughter to someone else as a concubine? Moreover, it was an old man like Qin Biao. In Gu Yueshang's opinion, even an old man at Supreme God level 8 was not worthy of his daughter. Gu Yueshang knew that his daughter, Gu Xinyue, had a relationship with Kong Xinmu, and it was not an ordinary relationship. If Kong Xinmu became his son-in-law, wouldn't Qin Biao have to stand aside obediently? Of course, Gu Yueshang did not want to rely on others. Therefore, he planned to settle Qin Biao's problem himself before Kong Xinmu became his son-in-law. Outside the 5 Extremes mysterious ice city, Gu Yueshang followed Qin Biao and arrived above a dense forest. Many people were thousands of feet away, wanting to watch the battle. Gu Yueshang, let me see how much you've improved after breaking through to Supreme God level 8. Qin Biao laughed coldly and transformed into the Five Extremes Mysterious Ice Divine Dragon. He was a standard inheritor of the Five Extremes Profound Ice Divine Dragon's blood essence. His power had been properly inherited from the Five Extremes Profound Ice Holy Land, and he was extremely powerful. However, Gu Yueshang wasn't the inheritor of the Five Extremes Dark Ice Divine Dragon's blood essence. Like Gu Xinyue, he had inherited the blood essence of the Nightmare Illusory Dragon. This was the reason why he was able to become an 8th-grade disciple of the Five Extreme Dark Ice Holy Land when he was only at the Transcendent God Stage 7. The Nightmare Illusionary Dragon was publicly acknowledged to be able to transcend the limits of the Divine Dragon's blood essence. Especially when dealing with people with weak willpower, it could have a miraculous effect. It was not that Qin Biao did not know this. Of course, since Gu Yueshang had reached Transcendent God Level 8, it meant that Gu Yueshang already had the ability to go against a Transcendent God Level 8. Although he might not win, he definitely had an advantage in a battle of the same level. But Qin Biao felt that his willpower was very firm. The Nightmare Illusionary Dragon's ability shouldn't be able to affect him. Now that he was facing Gu Yueshang, Qin Biao felt that the only one who could affect him was Gu Xinyue. He had been drooling over Gu Xinyue for a long time. If he created an illusion of Gu Xinyue, he might even be affected. However, he felt that Gu Xinyue was Gu Yueshang's daughter. Gu Yueshang wouldn't create an illusion of his daughter to charm him, right? Therefore, he was fearless when facing Gu Yueshang. Qin Biao, make your move. Gu Yueshang looked indifferent as he transformed into the Nightmare Illusionary Dragon and hovered above the dense forest. He didn't look like he wanted to take the initiative to attack. This battle had already attracted a lot of people to come over. However, the spectators were very far away. Everyone knew that this was a battle between Transcendent God Stage 8 experts. The battle would definitely be very powerful. If they were too close, they would definitely be affected. Then I won't stand on ceremony. Qin Biao's Five Extremes Mysterious Ice Divine Dragon body had white whiskers. His divine dragon eyes even had the power of mysterious ice seeping out, turning the surroundings snow-white. In the next moment, snowflakes fell as the power of the Five Extremes Mysterious Ice erupted. It condensed into countless icy sword auras. Five Extremes Mysterious Ice Void-Piercing Sword Aura. This was the most common Transcendent God Dragon martial technique among the Transcendent God experts in the Holy Land of Five Extremes Mysterious Ice. It was also the simplest Transcendent God Dragon martial technique to be cultivated. For the inheritors of the Five Extremes Mysterious Ice, the Five Extremes Mysterious Ice's space-breaking sword chi was very powerful. Other inheritors of the Divine Dragon blood essence wouldn't have such an effect. In the Holy Land of Five Extremes Mysterious Ice, anyone who inherited the blood essence of the Five Extremes Mysterious Ice Divine Dragon would cultivate this Transcendent God Dragon martial technique. Due to the large number of cultivators, there were also a lot of notes on this dragon martial skill. This made it easier for cultivators to cultivate it to the extreme sage realm. This was the Five Extremes Mysterious Ice Void-Piercing Sword Aura. Although it was simple and common, its power was far beyond that of an ordinary Transcendent God Dragon martial technique. When Qin Biao attacked, the entire place was filled with sword auras. The water vapor in the air was frozen into ice crystals. The place where Gu Xinyue was in the form of the Nightmare Illusionary Dragon was already filled with sword auras. They surged towards him as if they were going to pierce his entire divine dragon body into a sieve. It was also at this moment Qin Biao suddenly stopped. In his vision, the Nightmare Illusionary Dragon before him was no longer Gu Yueshang. Instead, it had become Gu Yueshang's daughter, Gu Xinyue. Both father and daughter had inherited the blood essence of the Nightmare Illusionary Dragon. Therefore, Qin Biao's expression changed slightly. What was going on? This Nightmare Illusionary Dragon had become slimmer? At this moment, he felt the Nightmare Illusionary Dragon launch an attack against him. The power of the Nightmare Illusionary Dragon condensed into an illusion and shrouded him. He saw the beautiful figure of Gu Xinyue in his memory walking towards him leisurely. His mind trembled slightly as he snorted coldly. Gu Yueshang, I can't believe you really turned your daughter into an illusion to confuse me. How childish. But before he could finish speaking, he suddenly felt the world spin around him. Something's wrong. A terrifying force suddenly struck the middle of his divine dragon body, nearly severing his entire divine dragon body into two at the waist. Where was the nightmare illusionary dragon? Where was Gu Xinyue? He had already fallen into an illusion from the beginning. Gu Yueshang had always been above him and not in front of him. His penta-mystical ice void-piercing sword aura was attacking an illusion. With a loud bang, the penta-mystical ice divine dragon's body was directly cut down by a ray of sword aura. It fell into the dense forest and stirred up a cloud of dust. I won't kill you. But today I can make you look incomparably pathetic. Gu Yueshang's voice rang in his ears from all directions. Admit defeat now and I'll stop. Otherwise, prepare to lose all your face. Qin Biao didn't know where Gu Yueshang's real body was at all. It was as if his entire being had fallen into an illusion and he couldn't find Gu Yueshang at all. Even if Gu Yueshang appeared in front of him, he couldn't be sure that it was his real body. He would probably think that it was an illusion. This was the terror of the nightmare illusionary dragon. Chapter 5480. Gu Yueshang, who was originally at level 7, was naturally not Qin Biao's match. At that time, his nightmare illusory dragon inheritance was not this powerful. Against Qin Biao, who was a level higher than him, the effect was minimal. But it was different now. When Gu Yueshang and Qin Biao had the same cultivation level, the nightmare illusory dragon could confuse the opponent. As long as the opponent was careless, he would fall into the illusion of the nightmare illusory dragon. Gu Yueshang had used this to his advantage, and when his opponent thought the battle hadn't even begun, he'd already activated the illusory realm. Qin Biao had fallen into the illusion and had no chance of turning the situation around. Even if Gu Yueshang removed the illusion, Qin Biao could not be sure that what he saw was real. Doubt and fear would become the strongest forces that would overwhelm him. On the contrary, Gu Yueshang's direct combat strength was not that strong. The battle between two level 8 supreme gods seemed to have ended before it even started. Subsequently, Qin Biao was continuously beaten up, but he could not even figure out Gu Yueshang's position. All along, he knew that Gu Yueshang's talent was limited and did not care much about his strength, thinking that he could suppress his opponent with his strength. However, he had not expected Gu Yueshang to break through in the end because of Jiang Shenwu. Not only that, Gu Yueshang would continue to break through in the future. It was even possible for him to reach supreme level. After all, Gu Yueshang was only 2 steps away from supreme level. In the past, these 2 steps were as difficult as climbing a ladder to heaven for Gu Yueshang. But with Kong Shinmu's ability, it was as easy as eating and drinking. Soon, Qin Biao's pentagonal mysterious ice divine dragon was covered in wounds. All over his body were injuries caused by Gu Yueshang's sweeping sword aura. Qin Biao did not have a super strong recovery ability like Kong Shinmu. His strongest move was the pentagonal mysterious ice sky-piercing sword aura. But how could he fight without knowing where his opponent was? He was at a disadvantage. He was being beaten like a drowning dog. Qin Biao felt that he was going to lose all his face today, but he could not do anything about it. However, he wasn't willing to admit defeat either. I'm unwilling. I actually fell for this old fox's trick. His daughter's illusion was not used to confuse me, it was only used to distract me. Then, he would be able to spread the illusion completely, and I would not be able to find any trace of him. Qin Biao was continuously beaten, and he felt his body getting weaker and weaker. The divine dragon essence blood in Xiao Chen's body drained continuously. If this continued, he would be beaten to death. Just then, Gu Yueshang stopped. A dignified and pleasant voice suddenly rang out from the sky. This was Emperor Shi's divine dragon. The divine dragon of Emperor Shi, dressed in red, appeared in front of everyone. The aura of a powerful cultivator swept across the entire area, enveloping everyone. Senior Emperor Shi. When Gu Yueshang saw her, he instantly became alert and hurriedly removed the illusion. Emperor Shi was Kong Shinmu's teacher and Kong Shinmu's greatest backer. Even among the supreme experts, Emperor Shi Divine Dragon was considered one of the strongest. Gu Yueshang naturally respected her very much. Moreover, Emperor Shi Divine Dragon had always contributed a lot to the dragon gods, and everyone had seen it. Respect for the Divine Dragon Emperor Shi was not only because of her strength, but also because of her moral character and actions. Qin Biao, as an 8th grade disciple of the 5 Extremes Mysterious Ice Holy Land, when the disciples of the 5 Extremes Mysterious Ice Holy Land are being slandered, you should set an example. Emperor Shi looked down at Qin Biao coldly. I did not expect you to go to the Gu family residence and hit them when they are down. You do not look like an 8th grade disciple at all. The elders of the 5 Extremes Mysterious Ice Holy Land have decided to send you to the Outland Battlefield as a deputy general for 10 years. Sent to the Outland Battlefield. As soon as he finished speaking, everyone present was stunned. Such a severe punishment. Although he was appointed as a deputy general, the Outland Battlefield was an extremely dangerous place where he could die at any time. Could he still come back alive after 10 years? Of course, this was also an opportunity. If he came back alive, he would definitely have made a great contribution in the Outland Battlefield. Everything depended on himself. If he could withstand it, then it was a good opportunity. If he could not withstand it, then only death awaited him. Qin Biao's expression was uncertain. He raised his head to look at Emperor Shi. His eyes filled with unwillingness. Today, not only was he beaten up by Gu Yueshang, but he was also sent to the Outland Battlefield by Emperor Shi. All of this was because he had gambled wrongly. If today, Kong Xinmu had indeed been convicted of the crime of betraying the clan, how could he have encountered such a thing? All of this was because of Huang Rusong. Huang Rusong did not do his job cleanly, causing the traces he left behind to be found. Thus, there was evidence to prove that Kong Xinmu was not a traitor. Everything was over. Qin Biao shook his head with difficulty. He knew that he had completely lost this round. But regarding the Outland Battlefield, he was not that afraid. He had been to the Outland Battlefield before. As long as he was careful, there would not be too much danger. Moreover, this time, he was appointed as a deputy general, and his authority was not small, of course. When he actually went there, he would know that Emperor Shi would not be so kind as to be a deputy general with real authority. He was just a deputy general in name only. In name but not in reality. He did not have a single dragon warrior under him. These were all things that happened later. When the evidence of Huang Rusong's betrayal spread, the rumors about Kong Xinmu in the entire Dragon Gods clan stopped. Instead, it was replaced by young people who had made great contributions to the Dragon Gods clan. Kong Xinmu, Gu Xinyue. They were all geniuses of the Dragon Gods clan. In the inheritance relic of Emperor Hua, they killed hundreds of Emperor-level warriors of the Water Clan and the Thousand-Winged Snake Clan, and finally obtained Emperor Hua's inheritance. They even killed Huang Rusong, who had signs of betraying the clan, and made great contributions. When this news spread, the status of the Wild Sand Shining Sword Holy Land in the entire Dragon Gods clan suddenly plummeted. Originally, the overall strength of the Wild Sand Shining Sword Holy Land was considered to be at the top of the Dragon Gods clan, at least in the top 20. In the end, with the death of Huang Rusong, plus this overall incident, the reputation of the Wild Sand Shining Sword Holy Land fell to the bottom. Many upright dragon warrior disciples of the Wild Sand Shining Sword Holy Land announced that they were leaving the Wild Sand Shining Sword Holy Land. The number of disciples of the Wild Sand Shining Sword Holy Land decreased by more than half in just a few days. Their overall strength was more than reduced by half. Heavy losses. Chapter 54-81. News of Huang Rusong's betrayal and Kong Xinmu and Gu Xinyue becoming heroes spread to the other races. The members of the Demon God clan and the Ancient Phoenix clan naturally laughed it off. They never thought that the Dragon God race would really punish Kong Xinmu, a genius who had made great contributions. But the Talisman Water race and the Thousand-Winged Snake race suffered a great loss. It was a typical case of going for wool and coming home shorn. They had intended to kill Jiang Xinwu, but not only did they fail to do so, but they also wasted a large amount of resources to build the space-time transmission formation and lost the right to explore the entire legacy of Emperor Nvua's inheritance. They even had to spend a lot of resources to keep the exploration rights of many other important sites. After all, how could they guarantee that they would not do it again after what they did? The other races would also be wary. For example, the Virtual Human race, Star God race, Sea God race. When they cooperated with the Talisman Water race and the Thousand-Winged Snake race, they would get more benefits. Otherwise, they would not cooperate with them. Who knew when they would set up an ambush at the entrance of the legacy site to deal with their geniuses? In this battle, the Talisman Water race and the Thousand-Winged Snake race were completely defeated. The Dragon God race did not lose anything, but they still had Kong Xinmu. With Huang Rusong dead, who wouldn't be stronger than Kong Xinmu in the future? The potential of Kong Shinmu and the people around him was clearly seen by others, especially the people in the upper echelons of the Dragon Soul Holy Tower. And the Demon God race and Ancient Phoenix race benefited greatly. They not only obtained 600 levels of Emperor Hua's aura, but also allowed 100 people in their race to directly enter the central region of Emperor Hua's legacy site to explore. They also obtained 3 requests from Kong Shinmu. Kong Shinmu had to agree. Otherwise, if the Demon God race and Ancient Phoenix race did not help, Kong Shinmu would not be able to deal with the aftermath. That was looting a burning house. Of course, the Demon God race and Ancient Phoenix race actually admired Kong Shinmu. After all, Kong Shinmu's talent was obvious. In the future, he was likely to become the mainstay of the Dragon God clan. Now, news of Kong Shinmu possibly becoming a Dragon Soul martial artist had already spread to the other races. As for Kong Shinmu's status, the Demon God race and Ancient Phoenix clan didn't think it was too high. This kid had already done too many unexpected things. It was over. Kong Shinmu finally returned from the Dragon Soul Holy Tower and returned to the Gu family's residence. It could be said that Kong Shinmu had won a great victory in the inheritance of Emperor Envy Hua. Of course, Gu Xinyue also won a great victory. Although it was still unclear why Emperor Envua's consciousness chose Gu Xinyue as the core inheritor, it was a good thing that it had become a fact. There was naturally no harm in obtaining a brand new inheritance. Next, we will try to break through to the next realm. Super Shenron, here I come. Kong Shinmu was a little excited at this moment. After all, a long time ago, to him, Super Shenron was as untouchable as the sky. When he was at Donghuang Yonggu College, Super Shenron's Xiaofeng was like the sky, and he couldn't breathe. Now, he was finally going to break through to become a Super Shenron. Although his combat power had long reached the level of Super Shenron, when his cultivation really broke through to Super Shenron, the feeling was absolutely different. After returning to the 5 Extremes Mysterious Eye City and the Gu family's residence, everyone first celebrated. At the same time, Kong Shinmu also saw the people of the Devouring Dragon group who came to the Dragon God clan's great world to train. Senior Wanren, thank you for taking care of me. Kong Shinmu learned of what happened outside the city and was very grateful to Wanren Yu. No need to thank me. It was Emperor Shi who asked me to take care of them. Wanren Yu was very humble. At the same time, the way she looked at Kong Shinmu became more and more lively. Obviously, she admired Kong Shinmu very much. To her, Kong Shinmu was a junior. But she believed that with Kong Shinmu's current growth speed, he would soon reach her current level. Eventually, it would be a piece of cake for him to surpass her. And this time, there were 2 unexpected guests at the Gu family's celebration banquet. Yi Yin and Hakwin from the Hidden Killer Holy Land also came to celebrate with Kong Shinmu. During the competition in the Dragon Soul Holy Tower, Kong Shinmu and Hakwin had fought against each other, and they both had a deep impression of each other. And Hakwin and Yi Yin had a competitive relationship. Fortunately, this guy didn't get any inheritance from Emperor Hua's inheritance relic. Otherwise, I'm afraid he won't be able to catch up with me in this lifetime, Hakwin said with a smile. What do you mean? Why can't I catch up with you if I get the inheritance? Yi Yin looked puzzled. With your character, once you get the inheritance, you will definitely spend a lot of effort on it. Hakwin said matter-of-factly, with your talent, you won't be able to catch up with me even if you cultivate 1 inheritance, let alone divide your attention on 2. After that, Yi Yin and Hakwin quarreled with each other, but Kong Shinmu didn't pay much attention to it. But this reminded Kong Shinmu. War Moon, now you have the inheritance of the Dragon God clan, the inheritance of Emperor Hua Divine clan, and the inheritance of the power of the Starry Sky. If you cultivate 3 kinds of inheritance at the same time, I'm afraid you won't have enough time. Kong Shinmu asked in private, if you have to give up 1 inheritance, which one will you choose to give up? I don't want to give up any of the 3 kinds of inheritance. Gu Xinyue glanced at Kong Shinmu with her beautiful eyes and was in a dilemma. The inheritance of the Dragon God clan is my foundation and the foundation of my foothold. It's hard to give it up. At present, it seems that if I study the inheritance of Emperor Hua Divine clan, it's the best way to become stronger, so it's hard to give it up. As for the inheritance of the power of the Starry Sky, I don't want to give it up because it's the inheritance that you control. These words could be said to be Gu Xinyue's heartfelt words. He didn't expect that she cultivated the inheritance of the power of the Starry Sky because it belonged to the inheritance that Kong Shinmu controlled. Moreover, the inheritance of the power of the starry sky belongs to the power of space. Gu Xinyue continued, cultivating this inheritance won't do me any harm. That was the truth. This time, Kong Shinmu could come back alive completely because Moya blocked the 5 space-time formations. If Moya didn't have such a high understanding of the power of space, the result of this ambush would really be hard to predict. Then follow your heart, Kong Shinmu said with a smile. But no matter what, there was only one thing they needed to do next. That was to break through and become a super dragon. Kong Shinmu had been waiting for this day for a long time. Gu Xinyue had also been waiting for this moment for a long time. Xiao Bai, Xiao Yuhua, Ran Ran, and Liang Xiao were also waiting for this moment. But Liang Xiao had to wait for Kong Shinmu to break through first. His talent was limited, and if he relied on himself, he would definitely encounter a bottleneck, so he definitely needed Kong Shinmu's help. Next, it was time to break through carefully. Chapter 5482. The day had finally arrived. Kong Shinmu returned to the Holy Land of 5 Extremes Black Ice. He planned to break through to become a super mystical dragon here. Before this, he had discussed with Gu Xinyue, Xiao Bai, Ran Ran, Liang Xiao, and Xiao Yuhua about what he needed to pay attention to when breaking through to become a super mystical dragon. Of course, there would not be any results if it was just their discussion. After all, none of them had become a super mystical dragon. But senior sister Wan Ren Yu of the Holy Land of 5 Extremes Black Ice and the head of the Gu family, Gu Yueshang, were present. Even Moya had the right to speak about the transcendent power. Although she did not cultivate the inheritance of the dragon gods, her divine power inheritance still had some similarities with the inheritance of the dragon gods in some aspects. Moya's experience was also very important in this regard. It was very useful to Kong Shinmu and the rest. Finally, even Emperor Shi brought some news for Kong Shinmu and the rest to pay attention to certain aspects when breaking through. With so many people's guidance, it was very easy for Kong Shinmu to break through to the level of a super mystical dragon. Moreover, he had prepared for this day for a long time. If not for the fact that he wanted to achieve the most perfect breakthrough, he would not have chosen to break through now. In my body, there is still the black dragon's consciousness and the demon god ancestor's consciousness. Their levels are even higher than masters. To think that I, Kong Shinmu, have unknowingly gained the attention of so many people. Now, Kong Shinmu remembered all the people who cared about Kong Shinmu. These were the people he needed to protect in the future. Holy Land of 5 Extremes Black Ice. The training ground for Grade 6 disciples. Ever since the Dragon Soul Holy Tower initiated the competition between the Holy Lands, Kong Shinmu had officially become a Grade 6 disciple of the Holy Land of 5 Extremes Black Ice. He was in the training area for Grade 6 disciples, and was allocated a training space with a radius of hundreds of miles. This training space was equivalent to an independent space. It was an independent little world created by the Holy Land experts using the power left behind by the 5 Extremes Black Ice Divine Dragon. In the 5 Extreme Profound Ice Holy Land, there was a lot of power from the 5 Extreme Profound Ice Divine Dragon left behind. This power was used to create the 5 Extreme Profound Ice Holy Land. If a dragon martial artist that inherited the 5 Extremes Profound Ice Divine Dragon's blood essence came, they could also obtain the power left behind by the 5 Extremes Profound Ice Divine Dragon and increase their comprehension of the 5 Extremes Profound Ice Force. Kong Shinmu didn't need these. Inside the cultivation space, he kept the cultivation space in a state where no one could disturb him. Breakthrough begin. Wisps of heaven and earth spiritual energy began to be absorbed into Kong Shinmu's body. He transformed into a black divine dragon, and many black devouring vortexes appeared beside him. These devouring vortexes constantly devoured the energy of the dragon mark in this independent space. The energy of these dragon marks was the energy left behind by the 5 Extremes Dark Ice Divine Dragon, and it would not diminish for a long time. At every moment, the 5 Extremes Mysterious Ice Holy Land was condensing this kind of dragon mark energy, allowing people's divine dragon blood essence to improve. At this moment, Kong Shinmu was constantly devouring the energy of these dragon marks. In the cultivation area of Grade 6 disciples, the speed at which the dragon mark energy condenses is extremely fast. As a result, the concentration of the dragon mark energy in my independent space is almost 100 times higher than that of Donghuang Yonggu College. This is the true cultivation holy land of the dragon gods. In the Longgu continent, Many talented dragon martial artists died of old age in the Longwu continent because their cultivation conditions were not good enough. Some of them even never left the Longwu continent. Kong Shinmu felt a little sad. The current him already had some ability to change the situation. Of course, the Longwu continent was opened by the 4 Holy Lands at the same time, and each Holy Land established 4 Longwu academies. No matter how powerful Kong Shinmu was, he couldn't affect the areas under the jurisdiction of the other 3 Holy Lands. But in the area under the jurisdiction of the 5 Extremes Mysterious Ice Holy Land, Kong Shinmu felt that he needed to increase his potential. Anyway, Emperor Shi Divine Dragon was now in charge of the Longwu continent's Emperor Shi Longwu Academy. This was equivalent to saying that the entire Emperor Shi Longwu Academy belonged to Kong Shinmu. The dragon mark energy is very abundant. The heaven and earth spiritual energy is also very abundant. It's about time to break through. Kong Shinmu released the power that he had been devouring and storing in the devouring space at once. Instantly, an explosive power flowed through his body. This flowing power constantly tempered the limbs and bones of his black dragon body, causing his talent to increase explosively at this moment. The devouring power grew rapidly. The black dragon's consciousness was awakened at this moment. Super Divine Dragon is the level of Transcendent God. The power of Transcendent God is called Transcendent Power. Talent can also evolve into Transcendent God Talent. My devouring talent has finally transformed at this moment. Transcendent God Devouring Talent. This power continued to condense and form in Kong Shinmu's black dragon body, undergoing a huge transformation. This was still not the final form of the devouring power, but it was already a big step towards the final form. At this moment, the Transcendent God Devouring Talent could devour almost everything and turn it into its own useful power. It could devour all the attacks of the opponent. If the opponent's attack was too strong, it could also devour a portion of the power and weaken the opponent's attack. Moreover, the devouring speed of the Transcendent God Devouring Talent was more than 10 times faster than Kong Shinmu's previous devouring power. Too strong. Moreover, this Transcendent God Devouring Talent can also be used for cultivation. While cultivating, Kong Shinmu devoured the surrounding heaven and earth spiritual energy and the dragon mark energy, and his speed also increased dramatically. Originally, Kong Shinmu would probably need a few hours to devour the dragon mark energy in this independent space. But now, in the time it took to drink a cup of tea, the dragon mark energy in the independent space was completely devoured. I've finally broken through. Kong Shinmu had finally entered the level of Super Divine Dragon today. His devouring talent had suddenly become 10 times stronger. Not only that, the strength of his divine dragon body and the power of his various dragon skills had also become several times stronger. This was the transformation to become a Super Divine Dragon. Super Divine Dragon is really strong. Kong Shinmu casually felt his current strength and felt like it was going to explode. His black divine dragon body had directly grown to 3,000 feet, 3 times the length of before. This was a Super Divine Dragon. For dragon martial artists, this step meant that their life level had once again advanced to a higher level. I've already broken through to Super Divine Dragon. This means that I can continue to cultivate and improve my Super Divine Dragon skills. And Dragon Soldier Chen Xing. I can also unleash the full power of this formless weapon. Kong Shinmu's eyes lit up. At this moment, his combat power had suddenly increased by more than 10 times. Moreover, this was when he had just broken through. Chapter 5483. The Super Mystical Dragon Lives Up to Its Name. Kong Shinmu could not help but sigh. He had just stepped into the Transcendent God level and his strength had increased greatly in all aspects. This breakthrough was indeed extraordinary. Only then did he understand why, apart from a small number of people, there were very few people who could defeat a Super Dragon God at the realm of Dragon Emperor. Because the gap between them was just too great. Of course, if someone could defeat a Transcendent God at the Dragon Emperor level, they would be even stronger after breaking through to the Transcendent God level. Originally, before Kong Shinmu broke through, he could already fight against an ordinary Transcendent God level 5 opponent. Now, he could crush a Transcendent God level 6 opponent. Of course, if he faced a Transcendent God level 7 opponent, he would still feel a lot of pressure. After all, the difference between a Transcendent God level 7 and a Transcendent God level 6 was huge. Moreover, They were all ordinary super mystical dragon martial artists. If they were elite super mystical dragon martial artists, their strength could not be underestimated. For example, if Mo Yi suppressed her strength to Transcendent God Level 1, Kong Shinmu might not be able to defeat her. After all, Mo Yi's divine power was the power of nature and was most suitable for a human. No matter what, I've finally stepped into the super mystical dragon level. Next, I have to familiarize myself with the power of Chen Xing. In addition, I have to improve the 3 super mystical dragon skills. Body Refining Super Mystical Dragon Skill, Divine Astral Dragon Technique, Defense Type Super Mystical Dragon Skill, Despair Canopy, Offensive Super Mystical Dragon Skill, Extreme Heaven's Might Dragon Soul. These 3 dragon skills were Kong Shinmu's strongest dragon skills at the moment. Therefore, he had to improve them to a stronger stage. However, the efficiency was a little slow if he cultivated like this. I still have to ask Master for help in terms of dragon skills. Let's see if anyone has cultivated these 3 ultra-divine dragon martial skills and reached the extreme saint realm. Just use them on me and let me devour them. Of course, I can't let anyone I don't trust know about this ability. Therefore, I have to ask someone Master trusts to help me improve. If he had such a person to help him improve, then Kong Shinmu's dragon martial skills improvement speed would be extremely fast. Thus, Kong Shinmu sent a message to his master, asking if there was anyone he could trust who had practiced these 3 super divine dragon martial skills. Then, Kong Shinmu began to familiarize himself with the power of the formless weapon, Chen Xing. This Chen Xing was considered a transcendent divine dragon weapon. That was why Kong Shinmu was unable to unleash its full power before he became a transcendent god. But now, in his hands, Chen Xing could blossom with the most perfect brilliance. There are a total of 2,400 battle patterns. I can fully unleash their effects. Together with the effects of the astonishing rare stone and the diverse crystals, the overall improvement is almost 65 times. Any dragon martial skill would have such a terrifying amplification. Despair Canopy will have 65 times the defense. The extreme destructive Heavenly Might Dragon Soul is 65 times stronger. Too terrifying. That was the terror of the formless weapon. With the complete power of Chen Xing, Kong Shinmu could even compete with a 7th stage transcendent god. This level was already quite close to the strength of the Gu family's Gu Yueshang. He believed that very soon, Kong Shinmu would be able to surpass Gu Yueshang's combat power. When the Holy Tower of 5 Extreme Mysterious Ice opens next time, I might be able to break through 2 levels in a row and directly jump from a 6th grade disciple to an 8th grade disciple. Or even become a 9th grade disciple. This would depend on whether Kong Shinmu's future cultivation went smoothly. In terms of the Dragon God's inheritance, Kong Shinmu had finally stepped into the Transcendent God level. There was still one last step to go before he reached the Supreme level. After reaching the Supreme level, there was still a long way to go. At that time, Kong Shinmu could try to become a dragon martial artist with a dragon soul and then truly move in the direction of the ancestral dragon. Of course, that would definitely be an extremely difficult process. Right now, there was probably no one in the entire Dragon God's world who could reach the level of the ancestral dragon. But no matter how difficult it was, Kong Shinmu would try his best. It's almost time to integrate the Feather of the Dark God. The Feather of the Dark God was a super precious dazzling material that Kong Shinmu had exchanged for in the ruins of Emperor Wa's inheritance. The Dark God of the Dark God was a god in ancient times. Using its feather to dazzle a battle weapon could increase the battle weapon's concealment ability by more than 10 times. The formless weapon Chen Xing was the most suitable material for this dazzling material, because the concealment effect of the Chen Xing itself was 65 times stronger. Together with the Feather of the Dark God of the Dark God, it was 650 times stronger. This was a qualitative change for Kong Shinmu. Dazzle! The materials for the formless weapon Chen Xing's dazzling were the shocking gem, the numerous crystals, which could increase the effect of the battle patterns by 80 and 90% respectively, and the 33 Heavenly God Feather. This time, together with the Feather of the Dark God of the Dark God of the Dark God, there were a total of 4. The Chen Xing can dazzle 7 times in total. 3 more times. It's about time to think about it. Kong Shinmu had already reached the level of a super god, and could fully exert the power of the formless weapon Chen Xing. Since that was the case, it was time to create a complete formless weapon. There were still 3 chances of dazzling. What kind of dazzling material should he use to bring out the formless weapon's characteristics perfectly? Kong Shinmu had obtained many dazzling materials from the ruins of Emperor Hua's inheritance, and many of them could increase the power of the Chen Xing by several times. However, it wasn't easy to pick out the 3 best ones from them. Kong Shinmu began to sift through the dazzling materials. In the end, he picked out 3 dazzling materials and planned to dazzle the dragon weapon Chen Xing with them. These 3 dazzling materials had different focuses, but they were all super strong dazzling materials from ancient times. Each of them could be sold for at least a few million gold dragon coins in the market. Of course, Kong Shinmu would not sell them. He chose to use them for himself. First, the Golden Bath Divine Stone. The Golden Bath Divine Stone was a divine stone inherited from the shell of the ancient Golden Bath Turtle God. After thousands of years, it became a divine stone. The effect of the Golden Bath Divine Stone's defensive battle patterns could be increased by 10 times. This was another super strong dazzling material similar to the Dark God's Feather, but because it could only increase the effect of defensive battle patterns, its value was definitely not as high as the Dark God's Feather. One had to know that no matter how strong one's defense was, it would be useless against a truly powerful opponent. However, the Dark God's Feather could increase the concealment effect, allowing one to escape. Of course, to Kong Shinmu, these 2 dazzling materials were extremely effective. Chapter 54-84. Soon, Kong Shinmu integrated the Dark Night God's Feather and the Golden Bath Divine Stone into the formless Chen Star. The effect of the hidden battle patterns was increased 10-fold. The effect of the defensive battle patterns was increased 10-fold. Because the formless Chen Star's battle patterns could be changed at will, when Kong Shinmu needed to hide, he could turn them all into the hidden battle patterns. And when he needed to defend, he could turn them all into defensive battle patterns. The effect of these 2 kinds of dazzling materials could be fully exerted. Now the Chen Star has integrated 5 kinds of dazzling materials. I can also integrate 2 kinds of dazzling materials. Kong Shinmu had also chosen the last 2 kinds of dazzling materials. These 2 kinds of materials were different from ordinary materials and had their own special effects. The first kind was the Emperor Nvua's sacred heavenly jasper stone. After this dazzling material was integrated with the Chen Star, it would constantly enhance the physical strength of Kong Shinmu's dragon god body during the battle. The longer the battle, the stronger Kong Shinmu's dragon god body would be. The power of Emperor Nvua would constantly be integrated into his body from the void, which would make his defense almost limitless. The second kind was the Virtual Sky Boundary Stone. This dazzling material could make a battle weapon form a virtual sky boundary. The defensive ability of the Virtual Sky Boundary was extremely strong, even comparable to the desperate sky curtain that Kong Shinmu was practicing. This was equivalent to giving Kong Shinmu another layer of defense. But more importantly, the defensive ability of the Virtual Sky Boundary was related to the strength of his dragon god body. The stronger the physical body, the stronger the Virtual Sky Boundary. Together with the Emperor Nvua's sacred heavenly jasper stone, the effect of the Virtual Sky Boundary stone could almost be doubled. These 2 kinds of super dazzling materials were from Emperor Nvua's inheritance relic. In the exchange list of Emperor Nvua's inheritance relic, there was only one of each, and Kong Shinmu had exchanged for them. If it was a precious dazzling material, there might not be a second one in the whole dragon god world. But generally speaking, few people would use these 2 kinds of dazzling materials. Only Kong Shinmu's fighting style, which focused on improving the physical defense, would need this kind of dazzling ability. In this way, the Chen Xing is complete. Kong Shinmu breathed a sigh of relief. The complete form of Chen Xing was almost flawless, and it was more in line with Kong Shinmu's own combat characteristics. In battle, it could amplify Kong Shinmu's combat strength by more than several times. It was also at this moment that Emperor Shi sent a message. Earlier, Kong Shinmu had asked if anyone had cultivated the Divine Bulwark Dragon Incantation, the Curtain of Despair, or the Dragon Soul of Extreme Destructive Heavenly Might. Now, Emperor Shi had given him an answer. The Divine Astral Dragon Art and the Extreme Destructive Heavenly Might Dragon Soul are usually cultivated together. However, I don't know anyone who cultivates these 2 superior Divine Dragon martial techniques. As for the Despair Canopy of the Heavens, I once cultivated it when I was a super mystical dragon. Now, I'm at the ultimate saint realm. This was wonderful news. Emperor Xi's divine dragon had actually cultivated the ultimate saint realm's canopy of despair. It seemed that Kong Shinmu's despair canopy of despair would soon reach the ultimate saint realm. This was because Emperor Xi's divine dragon did not have anything too important to do recently, so she could accompany Kong Shinmu in his cultivation. This had already been said before. Since that's the case, from tomorrow onwards, you can come to my residence to cultivate. Emperor Xi's divine dragon extended an invitation to Kong Shinmu. Naturally, Kong Shinmu agreed. Emperor Xi's divine dragon naturally had her own residence in the Holy Land of Five Extremes Mysterious Ice. As a supreme cultivator, her status in the Holy Land of Five Extremes Mysterious Ice was highly respected. Naturally, her residence was also incomparably magnificent. Most importantly, the residence of a supreme cultivator was the place with the densest dragon mark energy and spiritual energy of the heavens and earth in the entire Holy Land. When Kong Shinmu cultivated there, not only could he absorb the despair canopy of Emperor Xi's divine dragon, but he could also use the dragon mark energy and spiritual energy of the heavens and earth to try to raise his cultivation level in his spare time. After reaching the level of a super divine dragon, raising his cultivation level required both the dragon mark energy and spiritual energy of the heavens and earth. Before reaching the level of a transcendent divine dragon, one's cultivation level and divine dragon blood essence were cultivated separately. But after reaching the level of a transcendent divine dragon, one's cultivation level and divine dragon blood essence had already merged into one. To raise one's cultivation level, both spiritual energy of the heavens and divine dragon blood essence were indispensable. That day, Kong Shinmu first left his independent space in the Holy Land of Five Extremes Mysterious Ice. He went to visit Liang Xiao and the Smiling Flower. Liang Xiao's compatibility with the divine dragon blood essence was 58, while the Smiling Flower's was 59. If the two wanted to break through to the transcendent divine realm, they would encounter a bottleneck. This kind of bottleneck in a major realm was the most difficult to break through. If they relied on themselves, they would probably need more than 10 years of effort. Therefore, they needed Kong Shinmu's help. And Kong Shinmu was already familiar with this kind of thing. He first went to Liang Xiao's independent space, then to the Smiling Flower's independent space. After a few hours, the two of them directly broke through the bottleneck and rushed to the first level of the transcendent divine realm. After reaching the first level of the transcendent divine realm, they definitely still had many things to consolidate and absorb. Therefore, Kong Shinmu did not stay behind to disturb them. Now was the crucial moment for everyone to improve their strength. This is a transformation. After this, each of their strength will increase by several times. Kong Shinmu was very pleased. Even Gu Xinyue, after reaching the transcendent divine realm, would probably be able to fight against the previous Kong Shinmu. One had to know that before they reached the transcendent divine realm, Kong Shinmu's battle prowess far exceeded theirs. Now they had finally reached the level of Kong Shinmu. One could imagine how strong the current Kong Shinmu was. The next day, Kong Shinmu went to the residence of the mystical dragon Emperor Xi. This was his first time coming to the residence of the mystical dragon Emperor Xi in the Holy Lands of Five Extremes Mysterious Ice. This was another extremely wide independent space. Usually, only the mystical dragon Emperor Xi cultivated in this residence. In the huge and empty residence, there was now one more person, and that was Kong Shinmu. After Kong Shinmu arrived, he directly saw the mystical dragon Emperor Xi. The mystical dragon Emperor Xi had transformed into a red-clothed woman. There was a slight smile on her pretty face. After seeing Kong Shinmu, she said with relief, "You have finally reached the transcendent divine realm. In fact, I thought you should have reached the transcendent divine realm half a year ago. I did not expect you to go to Emperor Hua's legacy relic." Fortunately, the harvest was good. Kong Shinmu said respectfully. Indeed, the exploration of Emperor Hua's legacy relic this time is of great significance to our Dragon God's clan. We have obtained many sacred items of the world. The mystical dragon Emperor Xi nodded and quickly avoided this topic. Since you are here, don't waste time. Let's start cultivating. As soon as she finished speaking, she flew out of the palace. In the clouds of the independent space, she transformed into a fiery red supreme mystical dragon. Chapter 5485. However, the heavenly chasm of despair created by Emperor Xi was not for Kong Shinmu to break. Devour. The devouring power, which had evolved into the godly devour talent, turned into endless black smoke and swallowed towards the heavenly chasm of despair. This was the heavenly chasm of despair of the ultimate sage realm. Kong Shinmu's devouring power had just swallowed a little bit when he felt endless comprehension being absorbed by himself. The heavenly chasm of despair was meant to make people feel despair. It was like a heavenly chasm that made people have no chance of breaking through. It made people feel despair. This was the truly terrifying defensive dragon technique. As long as the heavenly chasm of despair was used, the enemy would have no chance of breaking through. The terrifying aura, comprehension, and endless essence of the dragon technique were all devoured by Kong Shinmu. Once, just by devouring one layer of the heavenly chasm of despair, Kong Shinmu's understanding of the dragon technique had deepened tremendously. Twice, when he devoured 2 layers of the heavenly chasm of despair, his understanding of the dragon technique had reached another level. Breakthrough. Thrice, thrice, thrice. Time and time again. Day after day passed. Time was short. However, Kong Shinmu's improvement speed was extremely fast. Even Emperor Shi found it unbelievable and marveled at it. Previously, Kong Shinmu had only devoured a weak dragon technique, so she did not pay much attention to it. But this time, the speed at which Kong Shinmu devoured the comprehension and essence of the super mystical dragon technique was enough to amaze her. The super mystical dragon technique has improved so quickly? If it is a supreme dragon technique, the speed will not be much slower. This disciple of mine may really climb to the peak in the future. Emperor Shi had high hopes for Kong Shinmu. She even temporarily put aside her own cultivation to help Kong Shinmu improve his heavenly chasm of despair. Dragon level, heaven level, saint level. Finally, the ultimate sage realm. Kong Shinmu had cultivated the heavenly chasm of despair to the same level as Emperor Shi's mystical dragon technique in less than half a month. It was simply godly speed. This was the fastest person that Emperor Shi had ever seen in the history of the Divine Dragon Emperor cultivating the Super Divine Dragon technique. Previously, she had heard that those who could cultivate the Super Divine Dragon martial arts technique to the saint level within a year were already geniuses among geniuses. In the great world of the dragon gods, they were considered the pinnacle. As for reaching the extreme saint realm, it would take at least 3 to 4 years. On the other hand, Kong Shinmu had cultivated the curtain of despair to the extreme saint realm in half a month. His devouring power left a deep impression on Emperor Shi's mystical dragon. Moreover, during this period, Kong Shinmu was still in her independent residence, constantly absorbing the surrounding dragon mark energy and spiritual chi of heaven and earth to cultivate. As the despair canopy's cultivation continued to increase, Kong Shinmu's cultivation realm did not fall behind. Transcendent God Stage 2. When the canopy of despair reached its peak, Kong Shinmu's cultivation broke through once again. After reaching the transcendent God level, there were no more giant beasts. However, the heavenly tribulation of heaven and earth would appear. The heavenly tribulation of heaven and earth was a terrifying test that those who reached the transcendent God level would encounter when breaking through to the next realm. No matter where or when one was, there would always be a heavenly tribulation of heaven and earth. If one could withstand it, then he would successfully break through. If he could not withstand it, then he would be turned into ashes and his soul would be scattered. If he could challenge opponents of a higher realm, then the threat of the heavenly tribulation of heaven and earth would not be that great. For example, for Kong Shinmu, his despair canopy of despair had already reached the extreme saint realm. Coupled with the power of the formless weapon Chen Xing, the heavenly tribulation of heaven and earth from the first to the second level of the transcendent God level posed no threat to him at all. But for other dragon martial artists or cultivators of other races, it was completely different. How many people in the world could be like Kong Shinmu, who could defeat opponents of a higher realm? He might not even be able to find a single one. Even people like Gu Xinyue, who could defeat opponents of a higher realm or two, were extremely rare in this world. Probably not more than 1 in 10,000. In other words, the other 99% needed to have enough respect for the heavenly tribulation of heaven and earth. Every year, countless dragon martial artists died from the heavenly tribulation of heaven and earth when advancing to the transcendent God level. Because of this, most dragon martial artists would deliberately suppress their cultivation after reaching the transcendent God level. They would not increase their cultivation crazily like Kong Shinmu. They had to increase their strength to the point where they could resist the heavenly tribulation of heaven and earth before they could consider breaking through to the next realm. Despair canopy of despair. Extreme saint realm. Level 2 of the Transcendent God level. My battle prowess has at least doubled. Half a month later, Kong Shinmu left the palace of Emperor Shi's divine dragon residence. And during this period of time, the breakthroughs of the people around him had also been successfully completed. Gu Xinyue, Ran Ran, Liang Xiao, Xiao Yuhua, and Xiao Bai had all broken through to the first level of the Transcendent God level. They would have to rely on themselves for the rest of their cultivation. In the following half a month, Kong Shinmu stayed in the Devouring Dragon Regiment to guide the cultivation of the members of the Dragon Regiment. The members of the Devouring Dragon Regiment were very talented, and their growth rate was very fast. Li Xian, Wang Yuer, Yun Yiru, and Yun Yue were the leaders of the Devouring Dragon Regiment. After coming to the Dragon God's great world, their cultivation speed was even faster than before. As for Kong Shinmu, these members of the Devouring Dragon Regiment all respected and worshipped him. In their eyes, Kong Shinmu was already in existence at the level of a senior. Originally, Kong Shinmu had planned to continue cultivating like this. But in the end, things still came to him. The demon god race sent a message through the upper echelons of the dragon gods that they needed him to go to the demon god great world to help. This was what he had promised outside the legacy site of Emperor Hua. This time, I am definitely the only one who can go to the demon god great world. The others can't keep up. That's good. Let's go see what's going on in the other great worlds. Maybe we can get some new clues about the ancestral dragon. In this regard, the demon god ancestor consciousness in Kong Shinmu's body also raised both hands in approval. He really wanted to go back to the demon god great world to take a look. Kong Shinmu prepared to set off. He thought of the little princess of the demon god race, Xueqi. He had not seen her for a long time. He wondered how she was doing now. There were also those he had met during the sparring competition, Su Yi, Huang Yun, and later Amo Wuji. These people were the upper echelons of the demon god race. Especially Su Yi, who had some personal friendship with Kong Shinmu. She was also a member of the demon god race's royal family, and was Su Yi's elder sister. Putting everything else aside, I can finally travel between the dragon gods and the demon god race through official channels. Kong Shinmu still missed Su Yi a little. That cute little princess probably could not wait to see him. In that case, let's go. The demon god race wants me to do something. I wonder what it will be. Chapter 5486. The Demon God Great World. This was a vast space similar to the Dragon God Great World. The Dragon God Great World was the place where the ancient divine dragons had fallen, and the Demon God Great World was naturally the place where the ancient demon gods had fallen. A 16-winged heavenly demon god. A myriad ghost fire demon god. A myriad thief demon god. A myriad calamity demon god. All the bloodlines of the demon god race had fallen here. Later the human race thrived on this land. They created the various demon god clans. The most important of them was the Royal Su clan. With the inheritance of the 16-winged heavenly demon god, the Su clan's territory was built on the demon tomb of the master of the 16-winged heavenly demon god, Mo Yi. Mo Yi was the ancestor of the demon god in Kong Shinmu's body. His strength was second to none among the demon god race in ancient times, and he was even called king by countless demon god warriors. Unfortunately, he had fallen with the demon god race. The reason for his death could no longer be determined. But the inheritance left by Mo Yi was not the most complete. Because countless years had passed, only 70% of the inheritance left by Mo Yi had been passed on by the Su clan. The remaining 30% could not be found no matter what. This was why the Su clan of the demon god race was not in its strongest form. But even under such circumstances, the Su clan was one of the strongest clans in the entire demon god race. Regarding the 16-winged heavenly demon god, Kong Shinmu, you know more than we do. Previously, my clan's youngest daughter, Su Yi, communicated with you and received help from you. She has made great progress in the inheritance of the 16-winged heavenly demon god. This time, we invited you here because of this. In the main hall of the demon god race Su clan, Kong Shinmu came alone from the dragon god great world to see the strongest member of the demon god race Su clan, one of the 10 sovereigns of the demon god race, Su'er. Su'er was also Su Yi's father. In the entire demon god race, his status was extremely high. Even in terms of strength, he surpassed Kong Shinmu's master, Emperor Shi Divine Dragon. He had a super sacred item passed down by the ancestors of the Su clan. The 16-winged heavenly demon god. I see. When Kong Shinmu arrived at this place, he didn't feel restrained at all. Although there were many demon god race powerhouses around him, his expression did not change. His demeanor was calm, and he was not at all worried that the demon god race would harm him. Kong Shinmu was confident about this. After all, the relationship between the dragon gods and the demon gods was not bad. Most importantly, Kong Shinmu had a good personal relationship with the demon gods. This is where I was buried. But now, it has become the home of the demon god clan. As for the fiend celestial ancestor in Kong Shinmu's body, Mo Ye's soul, after returning to the fiend celestial great world, felt extremely emotional. Xueqi was surrounded by dense demonic qi, making it impossible to see what he looked like. However, his aura was so majestic that no one dared to breathe too loudly. Little friend Jiang, you can stay with my daughter now. Xueqi has been waiting for you for a long time. And Xueyi, you junior should talk amongst yourselves. When Xueqi spoke to Kong Shinmu, his tone was quite amiable. And from what he said, he didn't intend to interfere in the matter between Kong Shinmu and Xueyi? Yes. Kong Shinmu nodded. Regarding the inheritance of the 16-winged Skyfi and Celestial, I will tell you everything I know. This was what he owed the other party. After all, he had promised to do 3 things for the demon god race and agree to 3 requests from the other party. Kong Shinmu kept his promise and naturally would not object. Moreover, this matter did not harm him at all. Even if Xueqi did not mention it, Kong Shinmu would naturally tell Xueyi. After all, Xueyi was very important to him. Then, Kong Shinmu was sent out of the hall. He was sent to the backyard of the Skyfi Celestial Castle. That was where Princess Xueyi lived. Xueqi was the queen of the Su clan with the inheritance of the 16-winged Skyfi Celestial. As his daughter, Xueyi naturally had the status of a princess. Kid, you're about to see your woman. Aren't you excited? Hehehe. The demon god ancestor's consciousness, which was also Mo Ye's consciousness, had long been familiar with Kong Shinmu and was even teasing him now. I do miss her a little. Kong Shinmu nodded and did not hide anything. He really had nothing to hide from Mo Ye. After all, regarding the inheritance of the 16-winged Skyfi Celestial, Mo Ye still had to tell him the details. These details were related to Kong Shinmu's own cultivation. At the same time, he could also use them to help guide the other descendants of the 16-winged Skyfi Celestial. For example, Xueyi, and the other members of the Su clan who had the inheritance of the 16-winged Skyfi Celestial. The backyard of the castle. This was the residence of the princess of the demon god race. It was really difficult for ordinary people to come here. Kong Shinmu stepped in. The guards who led the way were all waiting outside and did not enter the backyard. In the distance, he saw 2 beautiful women playing chess in the center of a pavilion in the backyard. Xueyi. Kong Shinmu revealed a smile. He had not seen these 2 for a long time. He and Xueyi had cooperated in the arena of the competition between races. With Kong Shinmu's help, Xueyi had been able to achieve such results. As for Xueyi, there was no need to say much. Even until today, Kong Shinmu had not forgotten their relationship in the slightest. Recently, he had missed her more and more. Even if the demon god race did not call him over, he would probably find a way to see her. Guess who is here? Xueyi was facing Kong Shinmu. She saw Kong Shinmu at a glance. After a moment of surprise, she covered her mouth and chuckled. She got up and covered Xueyi's big eyes. Who is it? Is it father? Sister, let go of me. I want to scold him. I have already broken through to the transcendent god realm. Why don't you let me go out to play? Xueyi pouted her lips and said unhappily. But when she turned around and saw Kong Shinmu in front of her, she was immediately stunned. Is Brother Jiang here? Xueyi did not dare to believe it at first. When she came up and pinched Kong Shinmu's face, she was sure that her brother Jiang had really come and appeared in front of her. Long time no see. I didn't expect you to break through to the transcendent demon god realm. This speed is so fast. Kong Shinmu smiled and patted her shoulder. This speed was indeed fast. One must know that Kong Shinmu had once surpassed her by a major realm. But now, The two of them were actually on the same starting line. Kong Shinmu was a transcendent dragon, and Xueqi was a transcendent demon god. Putting aside the comparison of their strength, in terms of cultivation, they were already on par. Chapter 54-87. He did not expect Xueqi to have reached the cultivation level of a super demon god. Kong Shinmu did not expect this at all. But this was also a relief to him. After all, if Xueqi was still the same as before, her cultivation level lagging far behind him, it would be quite distressing. Of course, Kong Shinmu would not despise her, but the key was that some of the inheritance of a 16-winged heavenly demon god could not be passed down without reaching a certain level. So now, Kong Shinmu could directly tell Xueqi most of the details of the inheritance of a 16-winged heavenly demon god. Then, Xueqi would tell the other members of the demon god race royal family. This way, Kong Shinmu did not need to come into contact with other demon gods to avoid trouble. After meeting with Xueqi, Kong Shinmu first toured the Su clan's castle with her for 2 days. Then, he slowly told her about the inheritance of a 16-winged heavenly demon god. With the demon god ancestor Xueqi in Kong Shinmu's body, Kong Shinmu was naturally clear about the details of the inheritance of a 16-winged heavenly demon god. Moreover, when Kong Shinmu told Xueqi about the essence of the inheritance, his own demon god cultivation level would also increase. A 16-winged heavenly demon god. Kong Shinmu also had the bloodline of a heavenly demon god. But his cultivation level of the 16-winged heavenly demon god inheritance was quite low, only at the level of a demon emperor. The good news was that in the demon god race great world, Kong Shinmu's demon god cultivation level could increase rapidly. Corresponding to the dragon mark energy, the demon god race great world's devil mark energy also far exceeded that of other places. Indeed, whatever inheritance one cultivates, one has to cultivate in the great world. This is the fastest way. Kong Shinmu was somewhat emotional. Compared to the dragon god race, the inheritance of the demon god race was naturally unique. Although overall, the dragon god race was slightly stronger, the demon god race was definitely not weak. Even among the top powerhouses, Xueqi's strength was probably stronger than the strongest powerhouses of holy lands like the 5 extreme dark ice holy land. After all, the demon god race did not have a dragon soul or a dragon warrior. Therefore, the patriarch of each royal family was basically the strongest existence, comparable to the dragon soul dragon warriors of the dragon god clan. Beneath the Su clan castle is the place where the demonic god ancestor perished. Countless ancient 16-winged heavenly fiend celestials were buried here. That's why there's so much devil mark energy here. Brother Jiang, my father asked me to bring you to the demon god burial ground under the castle. He said that even he has never been to the deepest levels of the demon god burial ground. Now, only you can enter. Xueqi's words were very cute, but there was a hint of worry in her beautiful eyes. When you get there, you must be careful. All right. Kong Shinmu nodded and patted her little head with a smile. Seeing this little princess again, Kong Shinmu didn't even want to leave. Fortunately, this trip to the fiend god great world would definitely last for a long time. Let's go to the demon god burial ground to take a look first. There should be quite a harvest. Kong Shinmu communicated with the demonic god ancestor Mo Yi in his heart. Mo Ye's corpse was also the burial ground of the demon god that was slumbering beneath the castle. Kid, this time when we go to the place where my true body is buried, there will be a big surprise for you. The demon god ancestor Mo Yi laughed. I hope it's really a surprise and not a scare. Kong Shinmu said expressionlessly. He was very familiar with the demon god ancestor's personality. When did this guy not play tricks? But he believed that the other party would not let him die. Moreover, he had the black dragon's consciousness in his body as a final safeguard. The demon god ancestor could not do anything to occupy his body. If he had any ideas, the final result would be failure. He believed that the demon god ancestor would understand. Therefore, Kong Shinmu was not worried that he had any tricks up his sleeve. Kong Shinmu, be careful. It's said that our Su clan rarely enters the underground of this castle. Xueqi and Xueqi came together to send Kong Shinmu off. Before they parted, Xueqi was a little worried. This woman had once met Kong Shinmu in the arena. Now, she was very concerned about Kong Shinmu. Don't worry. Nothing will happen to me. Kong Shinmu nodded and then instructed Xueqi. What I told you before is enough to increase the strength of the Supreme Demon God Clan cultivators by about 10%. Tell your father about it first. The increase of Supreme Demon God Clan cultivators did not have much of an impact on the Demon God Clan as a whole. The key was that this was only the increase of the strength of the 16-winged Demon God Clan. Therefore, Kong Shinmu did not hesitate on this matter. But next, Kong Shinmu needed to carefully consider the increase of the Supreme Demon God Clan powerhouses. After all, it would affect the current top combat power of the major races. If Kong Shinmu helped the Su Clan's 16-winged demon god inheritors to increase their strength, he would become a sinner if the Su Clan harmed the dragon gods. He couldn't guarantee anything about this. After separating from the two women, Kong Shinmu stepped into the demon god burial ground beneath the castle. The first floor had already been completely excavated by the Su Clan. The second floor no longer had any secrets. Kong Shinmu went all the way down. The further down he went, the thicker the surrounding demonic aura, and there was an aura of death lingering in the surroundings. The third floor, the fourth floor, all the way to the 17th floor. Kong Shinmu encountered a problem. It was a black stone door, lying in front of him. Through this stone door, he could go deeper into the demon god burial ground. There's nothing in the 17th floor before us. Although the atmosphere is very scary, it's all coming from the deeper parts. The inheritance of the 16-winged demon god should have been obtained from the 17th floor. This is the inheritance of the 16-winged demon god, the most important ancestral land of the Su Clan. From this, it could be seen that Su Heir trusted Kong Shinmu very much. Otherwise, she would not have let him come to such an important place. Since ancient times, for hundreds and thousands of years, there were probably only a few people who could come to this place, and they were only people of the Su Clan. Now, Kong Shinmu stood in front of the stone door leading from the 17th floor to the 18th floor. With this sovereign's special secret technique, this door can be opened. The demon god ancestor, Mo Yi, passed a mnemonic chant to Kong Shinmu and said in a deep voice. Originally, this door was used to resist the invasion of foreign enemies. Unfortunately, in the end, it did not play any role. Chapter 5488. In other words, only Kong Shinmu alone could advance to the 18th floor. It was impossible for others to have this mnemonic chant given by the demon god ancestor. It was conceivable that the demon god ancestor must have encountered some kind of disaster and wanted to protect him. In the end, he was trapped in the deepest part of this underground palace and died. Immediately after, Kong Shinmu transformed into his 16-winged heavenly fiend celestial body and recited the mnemonic chant. The stone door ahead began to change along with the mnemonic chant. As Kong Shinmu's 16-winged heavenly fiend celestial's blood essence dripped down, the entire stone door actually began to melt, turning into a pool of black water that flowed towards the ground. A spatial passage appeared in the direction of the original stone door. So the 18th floor of the demon god burial grounds is an independent space. Kong Shinmu was somewhat surprised. He maintained the form of a 16-winged heavenly fiend celestial and walked towards the independent space. Soon, he traversed through the space and arrived at a dark place. Arriving here, Kong Shinmu felt an aura of death. The demon god ancestor, Mo Ye's clan of 16-winged heavenly fiend celestial experts were all buried here. Another mnemonic chant was imparted to Kong Shinmu by the demon god ancestor. As Kong Shinmu recited this mnemonic chant, he saw that the surroundings of this dark space suddenly lit up with a faint black light. Although there was no feeling of sunlight, it still allowed Kong Shinmu to clearly see what was inside this dark space. As far as the eye could see, he saw that this was a vast land of black scorched earth. On this scorched earth, countless 16-winged heavenly fiend celestial corpses stood upright like rocks. Every 16-winged heavenly fiend celestial corpse seemed to have an expression of despair on their faces. Do you see this? Back then, when the chaotic heaven-devouring dragon destroyed the world, my clan also could not escape the fate of extinction. This is the final hiding place of my clan. In the outside world, when the chaotic heaven-devouring dragon destroyed the world, all living things were annihilated. We were trapped here alive. Demon god ancestor, Mo Yi felt a sense of desolation. Back then, how glorious was their 16-winged heavenly fiend celestial clan. In the end, the appearance of the chaotic heaven-devouring dragon forced their tribe onto the path of extinction. After saying so much, you didn't confront the chaotic heaven-devouring dragon head-on. You just hid here until you died? Kong Shinmu felt aggrieved. Could it be that they didn't even have the courage to fight? The primal chaos heaven-devouring dragon devours everything. Its devouring power is 1,000,000,000,000 times stronger than what you have now. Mo Ye's consciousness sneered. No matter what it is, it will be completely devoured by it, leaving no bones behind. Even small worlds, large worlds, and space will be devoured by it. The black dragon's consciousness in your body should only be a part of the heaven-devouring dragon of primal chaos. However, once it replaces your position, the entire world will be in danger. In the primordial era, countless races perished. The demise of the divine dragon clan seemed to be related to the chaotic heaven-devouring dragon. All of this had to do with the black dragon's consciousness in Kong Shinmu's body. But recently, Kong Shinmu always felt that the black dragon's consciousness in his body was not so evil. Was this an illusion? Perhaps it was because the demon god ancestor's consciousness was restraining it. Anyway, if there was any problem, Kong Shinmu only needed to return to the dragon sealing abyss in the dragon martial continent to completely suppress the chaotic heaven-devouring dragon. What secrets were hidden in the dragon sealing abyss? Who set up the dragon sealing abyss? Kong Shinmu did not know. But no matter what, the current him did not have the capital to explore these secrets. His strength was too weak. Your cultivation in the demon god clan is too weak. The demon god ancestor came to the place where he was trapped and was no longer as frivolous as before. Instead, he said very seriously, "Today, you will devour my body, and you will obtain the true inheritance of the heavenly demon god king. In the future, you will be the king of the 16-winged heavenly demon god clan." Was it going to devour its former corpse? And obtain the true inheritance of the heavenly demon god king? Kong Shinmu did not reject this. But was this really useful? Could he really fight against the chaotic heaven-devouring dragon's consciousness? Sigh. You really do not need to guard against me. At this moment, a sigh came from Kong Shinmu's body. It came from the black dragon's consciousness. I am the chaotic heaven-devouring dragon. That's right. But I am only a part of the chaotic heaven-devouring dragon, the part that was abandoned by the chaotic heaven-devouring dragon. The part that was abandoned by the chaotic heaven-devouring dragon? What was that? Kong Shinmu frowned, not quite understanding the meaning of the black dragon's consciousness. All living beings have wills. There are good thoughts and evil thoughts. And I am the good thoughts of the chaotic heaven-devouring dragon, which was once abandoned. Kong Shinmu, as long as you are strong enough, I am strong enough. When the time comes, I will merge with the consciousness of the chaotic heaven-devouring dragon, and I will be able to suppress the evil thoughts. These words surprised Kong Shinmu. However, the demon god ancestor laughed coldly. Who knows if what you say is true or not? In short, you have already admitted that you are a part of the chaotic heaven-devouring dragon, so there is no possibility of you rising. Kong Shinmu will never be a bridge for you to become strong. With me suppressing you, don't even think about occupying this kid's body. The two ancient consciousnesses in his body quarreled again, giving Kong Shinmu a headache. Let's not care about that first. Kong Shinmu calmed down. In short, the stronger I become, the less the chaotic heaven-devouring dragon can affect me. The strength of the dragon gods comes from the power of devouring, so I need to improve my strength in other areas. The legacy of the demon gods was one of them. Devour the corpse of the demon god ancestor, Mo Yi, and become the true king of the demon gods. That would be the most complete legacy of the demon gods. Kong Shinmu followed the guidance of Mo Ye's consciousness and headed straight into the depths of the scorched earth. Along the way, he passed by the corpses of the 16-winged sky demon gods. The aura of death spread everywhere. However, the energy of the devil marks here was also extremely rich. Kong Shinmu felt that if he cultivated the legacy of the demon gods in this place, his blood essence grade would probably increase by 1 grade every day. Of course, this was with the help of the power of devouring. If it were anyone else, even in this environment, they would not be able to achieve such speed. There were probably tens of thousands of corpses of the 16-winged sky demon gods in the scorched earth catacombs. They were all overlords of the ancient era. However, the appearance of the chaotic heaven-devouring dragon trapped them alive in this catacombs. Finally, Kong Shinmu came to the deepest part of the scorched earth catacombs and saw the corpse of a 16-winged sky demon god that was tens of thousands of feet tall. Sky Demon God King, Mo Yi. Chapter 5489. This was the true body of the demon god ancestor. Like a mountain, it stood in front of Kong Shinmu. The surrounding demonic energy made the entire environment look like hell. The rampaging demonic qi surged like clouds, enveloping Jiang Shenwu who had just arrived. Although Kong Shinmu had transformed into a 16-winged sky demon god, in front of the demon god ancestor, Mo Yi, he was as small as an ant. So strong. Just by feeling it, Kong Shinmu knew how powerful this demon god ancestor was when he was alive. At least, he was much stronger than Emperor Shi's divine dragon. Although Emperor Shi's divine dragon was very powerful, she was not a dragon warrior of the dragon soul. And the demon god ancestor was a super powerful existence that was many times more terrifying than the dragon warriors of the dragon soul. The goal of the dragon warriors of the dragon soul was to become the ancestral dragon. And the Mo Yi of ancient times, even if he was not as strong as the ancestral dragon, he was not far from it. Devour it. The consciousness of the demon god ancestor Mo Yi was a little sad. He could feel his former body, but there was only determination left in his heart. Now that his people were dead, all that was left was the demon god race, which lived on their inheritance. The 16-winged sky demon god race had become a religion. None of them survived. They could no longer appear in this world. The only thing Mo Yi could do now was to avenge his entire race, and then let the demon god race, which had inherited his power, become the overlord of the world again. Revenge was to completely kill the chaotic heaven-devouring dragon. Now the chaotic heaven-devouring dragon's benevolent consciousness was in Kong Shinmu's body, but Mo Yi could do nothing about it. Both their consciousnesses relied on Kong Shinmu's body to exist. Mo Yi was not sure if this black dragon's consciousness was really the benevolent consciousness of the chaotic heaven-devouring dragon. But no matter what, he had to ensure that the other party was suppressed. The stronger Kong Shinmu's demon god race cultivation was, the more he could suppress the dragon god race's inherited cultivation, and the more he could suppress the actions of the black dragon's consciousness. Devour. The original body of the demon god ancestor. Kong Shinmu's devouring power spread out in all directions. He didn't hesitate because he knew that when ancestor demon god Mo Yi guided him here, he had already made arrangements. The devouring power gradually enveloped the demon god ancestor's body. Kong Shinmu devoured an incomparably tyrannical demonic aura. The energy from the endless devil marks swirled around Kong Shinmu. He swallowed the endless devil chi inheritance into his body, and turned it into the cultivation of the demon god race. This time, it could be said to be a great supplement. Even though the fiend celestial ancestor had been dead for countless years, the demonic aura on his body still far exceeded that of any place in the outside world. This was a 16-winged heavenly demon god king. Now that Kong Shinmu had devoured his entire body, it was clear that he could become a new 16-winged heavenly demon god king. At the very least, he would be the current god king of the demon god race. His inheritance was the most core inheritance, and no one else had ever obtained it. What a dense demonic aura. The demon god race's cultivation level is constantly increasing. His body was almost about to explode. Even his devouring space was almost about to explode. One had to know that when his dragon god race cultivation level reached the super divine dragon level, his devouring space had expanded several times. Even so, the devouring space was now filled with endless demonic aura. This demonic aura was constantly being absorbed by Kong Shinmu's 16-winged heavenly demon god body. As his demon god body continued to absorb the demon chi and the energy of the demon marks, it became more profound and larger. The demonic aura around his body made his aura more and more terrifying. The aura of a demon god. He could completely control the power of a 16-winged heavenly demon god. Originally, Xueqi and Xueqi could only control the power of 10 of the wings. Later, I told Xueqi some key points so that she could use the power of 12 of the wings. But now, I can completely feel the full power contained in the 16 wings. At the same realm, I can fully unleash the combat power of a 16-winged heavenly demon god. No matter what method I use, I'm nearly twice as strong as the other inheritors of the 16-winged heavenly demon god. The full power of the 16-winged heavenly demon god burst out from within Kong Shinmu's demonic body. It filled his 16 wings. A gentle flap of each wing could cause a terrifying wave of demonic aura that turned into a vortex that exploded in all directions. As for the main body of the demon god body, it slowly dissipated under Kong Shinmu's devouring. It turned into dust like smoke. First, the pair of legs that could support the heavens and earth, the legs of the demon body, were surrounded by endless devouring power. They were devoured and turned into the purest inheritance of the demon god race that was integrated into Jiang Shenwu's body. Even though his legs had been devoured, the main body of the demon god body was still in the air in front of him. It was as if it had stood in the void since ancient times, and nothing could shake it. Demon god body. Demon god wings. Every part of his body contained explosive power. This was all power after death. But to Kong Shinmu, it was constantly improving his demon god race inheritance. He could not digest the power that he had devoured for a while. He could not completely convert it into his own cultivation. But as time passed, his devouring speed became faster and faster. If I hadn't become a transcendent god, my devouring power would only be a fraction of what it is now. I'm afraid it would take me a few months to finish devouring. But now, I only need a few days to finish devouring. It's a pity I can't absorb it so quickly. I still need more time to digest the power of the inheritance. Every wing of the fiend celestial ancestor contained an incomparably terrifying power. The demonic aura spread explosively in this space and was then absorbed into Kong Shinmu's demon god body. His demon god body continued to grow and soon reached a height of 50,000 feet. Super Demon God. The grade of the demon god race's blood essence had finally reached the level of Super Demon God, and it continued to advance toward the transcendent god level. However, Kong Shinmu's improvement was too fast, and he could not withstand his own power. Use your 16 wings to absorb and store this power. It will help you improve faster in the future, and it will not be wasted. The demon god ancestor's reminder had arrived. Kong Shinmu nodded. The 16 wings were the strongest part of the 16-winged heavenly demon god body. If used well, just these 16 wings alone would be enough to defeat any opponent of the same realm. The endless power of the demon god ancestor was stored by the 16 wings. He could not absorb it at the moment, but he would not lose anything by storing it. When Kong Shinmu could absorb it, he would absorb it again. The power stored in each wing could help him improve by one realm. As long as he could withstand it, the speed of improvement would be terrifying. Based on this situation, even if the demon god race's cultivation reaches the transcendent god level, that day won't be too far away. Chapter 5490. The new book, The First God of All Times, had 5 million words and 800 chapters. When Kong Shinmu's demon god cultivation reached the level of a super demon god, he felt that he had more confidence in the demon god race. And after devouring the demon god ancestor's body, Kong Shinmu's understanding of the 16-winged heavenly demon god's inheritance deepened. He could perfectly unleash the full potential of the 16-winged heavenly demon god. However, he was still hesitant to pass on all these things to the Su clan. On one hand, he was not sure if the demon god race and the dragon god race would fight in the future. On the other hand, these were the core essence of the 16-winged heavenly demon god's inheritance. It was not easy to comprehend. Kong Shinmu had directly devoured the demon god ancestor's body. But it was not so easy for others to comprehend it. Even if the supreme demon god race powerhouses had a higher comprehension ability than other demon god race cultivators, to completely comprehend the essence of the 16-winged heavenly demon god's inheritance was not something that could be done in a short time. It would take at least a few years. It was impossible for Kong Shinmu to stay in the demon god race great world for so long. Even if it's just the comprehension of the 14-winged battle power, I'm not sure if I should impart it to the powerhouses of the Su clan. Once they comprehend the 14-winged battle power, the Su clan's strength will suddenly be above the other demon god royalty, and they will become the leader of the demon god race. The status of the supreme powerhouses of the Su clan may be equivalent to the status of the dragon martial artists of the Dragon Soul. Without the restraints between the various royal families, after the demon god race is unified, some bad things may happen. I must first establish prestige in the demon god race. In fact, I need to be able to control the demon god race. Jiang Shenwu was startled by the idea that popped up in his head. Control the demon god race. How terrifying was that? Today, no one could consider such a thing. But Kong Shinmu could. Because he held the lifeline of the 16-winged heavenly demon god's inheritance. What the Su clan has obtained is only the power of the inheritance. And what I have obtained is the inheritance itself. I can change the legacy according to your needs. I can teach you the method to comprehend the perfect combat power of 14 or even 16 wings. But as long as I want to, I can take back their power of comprehension at any time. The comprehension of 14-winged and 16-winged battle prowess followed certain rules. As long as Kong Shinmu added a few things to the laws, he would be able to achieve this. And for this, they would have to rely on the demon god ancestor, Mo Yi. It was possible for Kong Shinmu to use the demon god race's inheritance, but it was impossible for him to change it. He wasn't a professional. This kind of thing should be left to the professionals. Kid, you're quite daring. The ancestor of the demon god, Mo Yi, seemed to be smiling. Then as you wish, I will grant you the ability to wield the inheritance of the 16-winged heavenly demon god. You already know the key nomological laws for the eruption of 14-winged and 16-winged battle prowess. You only need to add these few pieces of information to turn these nomological laws into power that you can withdraw at any time. The ancestor of the demon god, Mo Yi, was naturally very familiar with his own abilities. Very quickly, he thought of a way to add some key information to the nomological laws for Kong Shinmu. Very good. Kong Shinmu nodded in satisfaction. Power is ultimately in your own hands. Only then will it be more reassuring. I won't use this to force the people of the demon god race to do anything. I just want to prevent them from becoming enemies in the future. That's not wrong, is it? Of course not. The ancestor of the demon god was deeply convinced. All right, it's time to leave. Kong Shinmu looked around, feeling a chill in his heart. This was a powerful ancient race, a race of 16-winged heavenly demon gods. In ancient times, they were definitely incomparably glorious. But now, they had all turned to dust. However, their inheritance had been left behind and became the gospel of some humans. These humans had gradually developed into the demon god race. They were different from the other human races and occupied this great world. The burial ground of the demon god race was too heavy. Kong Shinmu did not want to stay here for too long. Soon, he returned to the 17th floor. Then he returned to the 16th floor. He left the burial ground of the demon god. Su Yi and Xueqi were still waiting for him outside. When they saw him come out, they hurriedly came up to him with some worry. Brother Jiang, how was it? Did everything go well? Not bad. I obtained the nomological laws of 14-winged and 16-winged combat power. Kong Shinmu nodded solemnly. However, the nomological laws of 14-winged combat power can only be cultivated by supreme god-level demon god inheritors. The nomological laws of 16-winged combat power can only be cultivated by supreme god-level demon god inheritors. This was not set by Kong Shinmu, nor was it set by the ancestor of the demon god. It was a restriction from this world. In the inheritance of the 16-winged heavenly demon god, the combat power of 16-winged and 14-winged combat power was too strong. Only when one reached a certain level could they comprehend the profoundness within. This was a very common thing. Brother Jiang, are you saying that we can unleash the full combat power of 14-winged or even 16-winged? A look of admiration appeared in Xueqi's eyes. Without a doubt, her man had done it. And in this world, there was probably only one man who could do this. Humph, let those guys look down on you. Xueqi smiled so much that her eyes narrowed into crescent moons. She was very cute. On the other hand, Xueqi considered a problem. She asked seriously, Kong Shinmu, then have you decided to teach us the nomological laws of 14-winged and 16-winged combat power? The current Xueqi was already at the supreme god level. She could cultivate the nomological laws of 14-winged combat power. Therefore, she was very concerned about this matter. Moreover, if the Su family obtained these nomological laws of combat power, they would become the overlord of the entire demon god race. There was no doubt about this. They would be above all the other inheritors of the demon god race. Even the other members of the royal family would be left far behind them. I will teach it to you, but there is a condition. Kong Shinmu also said in a serious tone, You must promise me that you cannot use these powers to harm the dragon god race. Of course, Xueqi said without thinking, but soon she frowned. Obviously, she had also discovered the crux of this matter. I will add some power that only I can control into these two types of combat power cultivation laws. Kong Shinmu said in a low voice. If necessary, I can take back these two levels of power at any time. If you can agree to this, then there is no problem. However, you still have to ask clan leader Su Shen. In fact, this matter could not be decided by Su Yi alone. Chapter 5491. I'll go talk to my father. Let's wait for their decision. Xueqi said somewhat helplessly. She could not decide matters of this level, so it was better to leave it to the elders to discuss. Yes. Kong Shinmu nodded. Then let's go eat something first. Our demon god clan Great World still has many delicious recipes. I'll take you to have a taste. Xueqi narrowed her eyes and ran away with Kong Shinmu. Let the elders worry about this matter themselves. Demon God Clan, Su Clan Castle, Conference Hall. Su'er sat in the main seat. Below him, there were dozens of Su royal family experts who had just rushed over and gathered together. Let's discuss this matter together. Everyone, you are all core members of the Su royal family. All of you have supreme cultivation and are the mainstays of our Su royal family. I believe that everyone wants to improve further and make themselves stronger, but now there is a difficult problem in front of us. Our inheritance has been obtained by a youth of the Dragon God clan. Moreover, he has the authority to pass it on to us. 14-winged and 16-winged battle prowess cultivation rules. We must obtain these two key cultivation rules. This means that our clan will greatly improve. Su'er's words made everyone excited and agitated. At the same time, some people frowned. Excitement and agitation were natural. Because the inheritance of the 16-winged heavenly demon god clan had been around for so long, and no one had ever obtained the battle prowess cultivation rules above 12 wings. Previously, the improvement they obtained came from Kong Shinmu, who taught them the 12-winged battle prowess cultivation rules. Until now, it had not been completely popularized. However, as long as it was a member of the Su royal family who cultivated the power of 12 wings, it could be said that they yearned for more power. 14-winged, 16-winged, what kind of powerful cultivation rules were those? As long as they could master them, the overall strength of the entire Su royal family would at least double. But now, there was a problem. Kong Shinmu from the Dragon God clan had mastered these battle prowess cultivation rules. This young man possessed the legacies of both the Dragon God clan and the Demon God clan. At the same time, he also had an intimate relationship with Su'er's daughter, Xueqi. From this perspective, Kong Shinmu should be closer to the demon god race. But relationships couldn't be considered that way. It must be known that Kong Shinmu had always grown up within the sphere of influence of the dragon gods. This was the first time he had come to the demon god Great World. In terms of relationship, it was definitely closer to the dragon god clan. He wants to set up some special rules in the 14-winged and 16-winged combat power cultivation rules. This way, he can control the power of our Su dynasty's upper echelon. After all, he can take back the power of these two layers of battle power and cultivation laws at any time. In that case, won't we have to do whatever he says in the future? Soon, someone objected. That's right. Although on the surface it is to prevent us from attacking the Dragon God clan, everyone knows that we are on good terms with the Dragon God clan. His actions are merely to seize the opportunity to gain the power to extort our Su dynasty. Your Majesty, please reconsider. Everyone below the stage quickly voiced their opinions. Without a doubt, he opposed it. Although they thirsted for power, they didn't want the powerful power to be controlled by others. This kind of power that was obtained and then lost was the most uncomfortable. Although Kong Shinmu's original intention was only to protect the Dragon God clan, they couldn't possibly agree to Kong Shinmu just because of this. What if Kong Shinmu had evil intentions and wanted to influence the Su dynasty's many decisions? Everyone, do you have any other opinions? Su Shen was expressionless. From the surface, it was impossible to tell what he was thinking. The people sitting down all shook their heads. No different opinions. None of them would agree to let Kong Shinmu control the key power of the 14-winged and 16-winged. Seeing that everyone didn't agree, Su'er said lightly, Then you mean, you want to give up these powers? A middle-aged royal woman said in a deep voice. At present, only Kong Shinmu has these two powers, and it can indeed greatly increase our combat power. But in the future, we may have the opportunity to obtain them through other means. In that case, we don't need to be controlled by others. Xueqi heard this and slowly shook his head. If we really have the opportunity to obtain them through other means, then we can compare and cultivate again, and then we can get rid of his control. Xueqi said lightly, "Your reason doesn't hold." Another man heard this and said, "Your Majesty, in this case, why don't we invite the powerful figures of the Dragon God clan to come over and discuss with each other? Since we are on good terms with the Dragon God clan, let Kong Shinmu understand that the relationship between our two clans is absolutely strong, and we don't need to worry so much. As for the reason to invite the powerful figures of the Dragon God clan, I have already thought about it. Let's set a wedding for Her Highness and Kong Shinmu. What do you think?" When the man said this, many people around him changed their faces and began to think carefully. But Xueqi still shook his head. His tone was calm. Although the human clan comes from the same source, we have cultivated different power of inheritance, which means that we have been separated from each other by blood. There has never been such a thing as intermarriage between different clans. Because such a thing has never happened before, once we set a precedent, it means that we are close to the Dragon God clan, isn't it? The man said with a smile, "This can prove the determination of our royal Su family to be on good terms with the Dragon God clan. What's more, Kong Shinmu and Her Highness have close contacts, which is already known to all. Her Highness must also be looking forward to holding a perfect ceremony with the person she loves." These words were said one after another, and there were many people present. They all felt that these words were somewhat reasonable. So they raised their heads and looked at Xueqi on the main seat. Whether they thought it was reasonable or not, in the end, it was up to Xueqi to decide whether to do this. Xueqi sat upright and still, looking indifferent. He looked up into the distance. Then he slowly nodded his head. "Then go and ask Zhang Shunwu if he's willing to marry this sovereign's daughter." At this moment, Kong Shinmu was walking with Xueqi. They were in the castle, trying some special dishes in various restaurants. Not to mention, the cooking methods of the Demon God clan's big world were really unique. Chapter 5492. Hearing Mo Feng's report, Kong Shinmu and Xueqi were stunned. They did not expect Xueqi and the others to make such a decision. From the looks of it, they wanted to use this method to bind Kong Shinmu to the demon god race? Before Kong Shinmu could speak, Xueqi answered first. "What do they think I am? If that's the case, I don't agree." She glanced at Kong Shinmu. Seeing that Kong Shinmu did not object, she continued, "The matter between us has nothing to do with combat cultivation laws. Let's talk in private. What do you think?" Hearing this, Mo Feng's expression did not change, and he asked Kong Shinmu again. "What she means is what I mean," Kong Shinmu said with a smile. Of course, he could tell what Xueqi and the others were thinking. Unfortunately, this was something that even Xueqi was unwilling to do. "I understand. Your subject will take his leave." Demonic Wind bowed respectfully. Then, with a solemn expression, he retreated and quickly left. He found Xueqi and reported the situation here. However, he did not say that Xueqi was unwilling. He only said that Kong Shinmu was unwilling. Mo Feng was very protective of Xueqi. In reality, Mo Feng trusted Kong Shinmu very much. In comparison, he was the same as Xueqi. He did not trust the Su royal family of the demon god race. He knew very well that these people would do anything for their own benefit. Unwilling? Hearing this, Xueqi smiled lightly. She had already prepared a plan. Since that's the case, forget it. By the way, tell him that we can consider this matter from two sides. The combat cultivation laws of 16 Wings are indeed related to many things. So, I agree to let the entire Su clan cultivate the version he provides. But the combat cultivation laws of 14 Wings are not too strong and will not affect the overall situation. So, I hope that he can provide the complete version. If he agrees, the matter is settled. Mo Feng nodded. He then told this to Kong Shinmu and Xueqi. That's fine. Jiang Shenwu nodded his head and agreed. He didn't try to bargain anymore. In this way, not only would the conflict between the two sides be resolved, but Kong Shinmu would also achieve his goal. To be honest, Kong Shinmu had put the two matters together to give the other side room to bargain. Just as he had expected, the other party had started to bargain. Because this was the only path that Kong Shinmu had left for the other party. If Kong Shinmu did not agree, the other party would not be able to obtain the 14-winged and 16-winged combat cultivation laws no matter what. Since that's the case, from tomorrow onwards, I'll start teaching Xueqi and Xueyi the combat cultivation rules of 14 wings. Kong Shinmu smiled and said, "All right, have you guys send a supreme person over to prepare to receive 16 wings combat cultivation laws." Of course, Kong Shinmu wouldn't teach them one by one. That would waste too much time. He only needed to teach one or two people first, and then let those one or two people teach the rest of the demon god Su royal family. Obviously, this would save time for Kong Shinmu. But for the demon god Su royal family, it would be more troublesome. Because in this way, the 14-winged and 16-winged combat cultivation laws would fall into the hands of a few others. Fortunately, Xueqi and Xueyi were descendants of the royal family, so there would be no problem for Kong Shinmu to teach them. Previously, Kong Shinmu had also taught Xueyi the 12-winged combat cultivation laws, and Xueyi had now made it public. But what about the supreme person? The person sent to train was a huge problem. One had to know that the supreme person was not as simple as Xueqi and Xueyi. To them, once they obtained the 16-winged combat cultivation laws, they would most likely pose a threat to Su Yu's position, and thus cause internal strife within the demon god Su royal family. After all these considerations, Su Yu finally made a decision. The 16-winged combat cultivation laws were just like what Kong Shinmu had said. Everyone would train in Kong Shinmu's version, and as long as Kong Shinmu was willing, he could take back his comprehension and power. In this way, the person he sent to train would not have the idea of monopolizing the combat cultivation laws. Because that would be meaningless. So, Su Yu agreeing to Kong Shinmu's matter was the final result of a multi-party struggle. It was not just Kong Shinmu's request that Su Yu agree to it. After all, it was impossible for Su Yu to directly participate in the first round of teaching. She needed to guard against Kong Shinmu. This was a very normal decision as the ruler of the Su royal family. Su Yi's residence. Kong Shinmu stayed in her residence. Guard Mo Feng stood guard outside Su Yi's residence. Every day, Kong Shinmu rested alone, while Xueqi and Xueyi rested together. At the same time, they exchanged insights on the 14-winged combat cultivation laws that Kong Shinmu had imparted. The 14-winged combat cultivation laws were much more difficult and complicated than the 12-winged combat cultivation laws. It was not something that could be cultivated in a short time. So, this was a battle of endurance. On the third day after Xueqi and Xueyi began to cultivate, Su Yu finally sent a chosen person to stay in Su Yi's residence. It was Su Yu's younger sister, Su Jiyu. She was a very important supreme expert of the Su royal family. She was Su Yu's younger sister, and also Su Yi and Su Ye's aunt. Her cultivation was not too high in the Su royal family, but she had always been doted on by the late emperor. At the same time, Su Jiyu was also a great beauty whose reputation spread far and wide in the Su royal family. Compared to Su Yi, Su Jiyu was much more mature. At Su Yi's current age, she was a little girl. As for Su Jiyu, if she were an ordinary person, she would have long passed the age of marriage. Unfortunately, Su Jiyu did not seem to be interested in men. So until now, there was no news of her having feelings for any man. This also made Su Jiyu the most important woman in the demon god clan. The four great beauties of the demon god clan. One of them was Su Jiyu of the Su clan. To Kong Shinmu, it did not matter who the other party was. Anyway, he only needed to impart the 16-winged combat cultivation laws to her. What happened after that had nothing to do with him. When Su Jiyu arrived, Protector Mo Feng's expression changed. He was a little embarrassed. He was responsible for Princess Su Yi's safety, but now that Su Jiyu had arrived, he did not know whether he should continue guarding. Continue to stand guard and do your job. Su Jiyu saw through Mo Feng's thoughts and said with a light smile. Yes. Mo Feng replied respectfully. Chapter 5493. Kong Shinmu also noticed Su Jiyu's arrival. He nodded at her. Aunt. Xueqi and Xuyi stepped forward and bowed. Why are you so polite? Su Jiyu smiled gently and helped the two girls up. How is your cultivation? Soon, it will be the exchange of the younger generation of the Demon God clan. You have to prepare well. At that time, Kong Shinmu will also participate. Su Yi pursed her lips and smiled. He can be considered a member of our Su clan now. Of course. Su Jiyu pinched her little face. Then, she got up and looked at Kong Shinmu. A long time ago, I heard that the Dragon God clan had a genius who was accepted as a disciple by Emperor Shi. I didn't expect to meet you today, and under such circumstances, I sincerely hope that I will not be your enemy in the future. Hearing this, Jiang Shenwu smiled and said, then it's up to you. He would definitely not initiate a conflict with the Demon God clan. Unless the Demon God Su clan did something unfavorable to the Dragon God clan. In that case, his position might change, and he would stand on the side of the Dragon God clan. Of course, after he passed on the 16-winged battle cultivation rules, the possibility of that happening would be very small. The Su royal family's super combat power was in the hands of Kong Shinmu. That way, as long as it was not something too serious, the Su royal family would eventually deal with it for Kong Shinmu's sake. Moreover, there would definitely be conflicts of interest between the Dragon God clan and the Demon God clan. Kong Shinmu was very clear about this. He could not let the Demon God clan give in to the Dragon God clan in all aspects, right? That was not fair. So as long as the Demon God clan did not launch a large-scale attack on the Dragon God clan or betray the Dragon God clan, Kong Shinmu would not take the initiative to attack. Speaking of which, Su Jiyu was indeed extremely beautiful and attractive. She was the oldest of the 4 great beauties of the Demon God clan. But she was the one that everyone longed for the most. In anyone's memory, Su Jiyu had never lost her temper. She was always gentle and considerate, and she treated everyone the same way. You guys continue, I'll just take a look around. Su Jiyu stroked Su Yi's head and said lovingly. Yes. Su Yi nodded. She and Su Yi were currently cultivating the combat cultivation laws of the 14 wings. They were currently activating the power of the 13th and 14th wings in their demon god race's inherited blood essence. This process was quite difficult. Although this was the instinct of a 16-winged heavenly demon god, any 16-winged heavenly demon god could easily stimulate its potential. However, Su Yi and Su Yi were only the inheritors of the 16-winged heavenly demon god. They were not real 16-winged heavenly demon gods. Therefore, they were destined to be like everyone else in this aspect, and they had to go through some difficult processes. Su Jiyu sat at the side, watching Su Yi and Su Yi cultivate. The bodies of the two 16-winged heavenly demon gods seemed to be able to support the heavens and the earth in the martial arena. Their 16 wings constantly burst out with violent energy, whistling towards the surroundings. Following the method Kong Shinmu taught them, their 13th and 14th wings began to burst forth with power. Originally, all the 16-winged heavenly demon god race cultivators could only burst forth with the power of 10 wings. But after Kong Shinmu taught it to Su Yi, they could burst forth with the power of 12 wings. Now they were advancing to the next level. The two women trusted Kong Shinmu very much. They believed that Kong Shinmu would not harm them, so they spared no effort in cultivating. To them, this was also one of the ways to increase their importance within the Su clan. It was not an exaggeration to say that the original Su Yi and Su Yi were not considered important figures within the Su clan. But now, they had become the bridge for all the other Su clan cultivators to become stronger. How do I activate the power of 14 wings? Is there anything I need to pay attention to? Su Jiyu looked at them, then gently asked Kong Shinmu. Without a doubt, she also needed to cultivate the power of 14 wings. Otherwise, she would not be able to activate the power of 16 wings. The prerequisite for activating the power of 16 wings was to completely activate the power of 14 wings. When Su Jiyu began to ask, Kong Shinmu also began to explain to her. This part was something he did not need to hold back at all. He explained all the details regarding the training of the power of 14 wings. The process, the details, nothing was left out. It was exactly the same as what Su Yi and Su Yi had said. These were all the powerful comprehensions he had obtained from devouring Mo Ye's main body. Other than him, even if the other members of the Su clan entered the deepest part of the demon god burial grounds, They would not be able to obtain these comprehensions so quickly. At least dozens of years or even hundreds of years. Moreover, without the consciousness of the demon god ancestor, Mo-yi, they would not be able to enter the deepest part of the demon god burial grounds. In the current Su clan, there was no genius that could satisfy Mo-yi. This was why Mo-yi chose Kong Shinmu as his successor. On one hand, it was because of the power of devouring. On the other hand, it was naturally because of Kong Shinmu's talent. Compared to the inheritance of the Dragon God clan, Mo-yi felt that Kong Shinmu was more suitable for the inheritance of the Demon God clan. His inheritance blood essence of a 16-winged heavenly demon god was extremely suitable for Kong Shinmu. Kong Shinmu was born to be able to unleash his full power. The days passed bit by bit. The training of the 14-winged and 16-winged continued to advance. Xueqi was indeed a genius beauty of the Su clan. The speed at which she comprehended the training of the power of 14 wings was much faster than Xueqi and Xuyi. Of course, this was also because she had already reached the supreme level, and her comprehension ability was much higher. When she completely mastered it, she began to train in the combat training of the 16-winged heavenly demon god. This was the final form of the inheritance of the 16-winged heavenly demon god. The Su clan had been exploring it for generations, but unfortunately, they had never succeeded. At this moment, even someone like Xueqi could not help but feel somewhat agitated. The complete form of the inheritance of the 16-winged heavenly demon god would soon appear. And during this time, Kong Shinmu also received a piece of news. That was, the triennial martial arts competition of the entire Demon God clan was about to begin. As one of the Demon God clan's royal families, the Su clan naturally had to participate in this competition. And the purpose of this competition was very clear. It was to determine the ranking of the major clans of the Demon God clan. It should be known that the major clans of the Demon God clan were very clear about the strength of the older generation. There was no need to compete. But the younger generation represented the future of the major clans. Therefore, the ranking of the younger generation in the competition would determine the future ranking of the major clans of the Demon God clan. Since the ranking would be like this in the future, it was not a big deal to advance the ranking. You're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.